Writers, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Dorfman.
Today, we are going to do some important work here. We're going to continue our study of leads, effective leads. And today, we're going to return to a mentor text that we've seen before, George Washington and the General's Dog by Frank Murphy. We're going to look at his beginning, his introduction to this book, and we're going to notice what he does. George Washington is one of America's greatest heroes. George was honest and brave. But there is something about George that people don't always know. George Washington loved animals. Now let's go back and look at his introduction. And let me think out loud for you. George Washington is one of America's greatest heroes. He's telling me there something that everybody pretty much knows about George. Most people know that George was honest and brave. Oh, there are those stories about George Washington and the cherry tree, and everybody knows that George was honest and brave, or at least most people do. So again, author Frank Murphy's telling me something that most people know about George Washington. But then he changes it up. There is something about George that people don't always know. Now he's got me guessing. And when we turn the page, we find out that George Washington loved animals. Wow. I think what he did here was kind of sharing a secret, telling us something that most people don't know about George Washington. Now, when I notice something like that about an author, I like to see if he does it again, in another book, perhaps. So let's look at another book by Frank Murphy, another book that we've shared as a read aloud, Babe Ruth Loves Baseball, also by author Frank Murphy. Let's look at his introduction and see what he does here. Almost everyone knows something about George Herman Ruth. Who was George Herman Ruth? Who was he, Allison? He was Babe Ruth. You probably know him as Babe. That was his nickname. Babe played for the New York Yankees. He hit hundreds of home runs. Most people think he was baseball's greatest player. But do you know the best thing about Babe Ruth? He saved baseball. He did. Let's go back and look at that one more time. Again, author Frank Murphy tells us something about Babe that most people know. That George Herman Ruth had a nickname. Everyone called him Babe. Most people know that Babe Ruth played for the New York Yankees. And as a matter of fact, most people know that he was famous for hitting home runs. But I wonder how many people know that Babe Ruth had something to do with saving baseball. I think that's a secret. So 2 times now, author Frank Murphy has used this kind of introduction, sharing a secret to get us interested and keep reading. Let's see if another author does the same thing. Here is another book by Laurie Halse Anderson. Now this one you're probably not familiar with. Mr. Monahan and I haven't had a chance to really share this book completely with you. This is called Independent Dames, What You Never Knew About the Women and Girls of the American Revolution. And it is also by Laurie Halse Anderson. Let's look at her introduction one more time. Here we go. Look, another school play about the heroes of the American Revolution. How sweet. We've got George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, and Thomas Paine. Famous guys who did important things. Wonderful. Just Wonderful. Of course, you're missing part of the story. In fact, you're missing about half of it. Hello? How about the women? What about the girls? They wanted a free country too. They worked, they argued, they fought, and they suffered just like the men and the boys. They didn't teach you this yet? Listen up. Do you see how she's doing the same thing here? She's sharing a secret. What is the secret she's going to share with us? Mary?
That girls were treated the same as boys.
And that they were what? That they
Treated differently.
They were treated differently.
Like treated not fair.
And they wanted to be part of things, didn't they? And they were. They worked, they argued, they fought, they suffered just like the men and the boys. So she's going to share their story. Let's turn back to the page before. Do you see how she's giving you all the names of all the famous men that we remember? You don't see any woman's name there, do you? So her secret that she wants to share with us is that women played an important part in the American Revolution, and she's going to tell us that secret. She's going to share it with us. So sharing a secret. Who doesn't love to be in on a good secret? It's like the author is calling you over here. Melissa, get up here with me. And it's like the author is doing this to the reader, whispering a secret right in the reader's ear. And everybody loves a good secret. Also, thank you, Melissa. Also, when you write an informational piece, the whole purpose of sharing information should be in telling people what they don't already know to keep them interested. So today, our purpose for study writers today, we are going to study a new kind of lead. We are going to study a lead that we're going to call sharing a secret. Remember that when we study a craft, we have to give it a name so we can all call it the same thing when we find it, and we can have a discussion about it. So this kind of lead we're going to call sharing a secret. Now,
George Washington is one of America's greatest heroes. Most people know that George was honest and brave. But there is something about George that people don't always know. And that, of course, is animals. George Washington loved, notice the italics in here, loved animals. I use this style and craft my own lead paragraph, sharing a secret. I'm going to start off by mentioning my name in here. I'm related to Upper Moreland, our school district, of which I am very proud. Most people know that Mr. Monahan teaches 5th grade intersections. All right, let me step back now. I'm going to examine my use of Frank Murphy's craft here, my use of sharing a secret. Most people know that Mr. Monahan teaches 5th grade at the intermediate school. They also know that he loves Philadelphia sports and smashing eggs in the egg drop. But there is something about Mr. Monahan that people don't know. Here it is, the sharing of the secret. Mr. Monahan is terrified of cars turning at intersections. Again, I went with that one. It's not really a humorous one. It's not like some of these other refusing to wear white socks grilling in the snow ones that you might get some chuckles out of. I went with one that I can develop because it's pretty serious in my life.